This is my brutally honest review of The Sims 4 for rent. This is a part of the series where I review every pack for The Sims 4, including all of the older ones. Guys, I know I have this disgusting spot on my head. I feel really ill. I have a sore throat. I've had insomnia all night, so I haven't slept. Luckily, I was able to stay up and play this game really late because I couldn't sleep, so I got loads of gameplay to review. But I know I look ugly right now. You don't need to tell me I know, okay? Jumping straight into Create a Sim, there's actually a lot of stuff for infants, toddlers, and kids. Most packs have barely anything, but this one had a lot, so I was very surprised. Both male and female Sims, I feel like, got some nice new clothing. It's not my personal vibe, but looking at it objectively, there's a lot of really nice stuff. I think a lot of it's really modern too, and it's different to what we've seen before. I'd say it's mostly summery style stuff. Male Sims finally get some new fades, and I'm so happy about this, although we didn't get barely anything. Why are the Sims team so anti-male Sims? Is it like one of these rich straight white man woke I hate the patriarchy things? I don't know, just give us some more male stuff, bloody hell. I feel like you can make some really nice outfit combinations though with everything for both male and female Sims, and there are a lot of different swatches for almost all items, which is really nice. In cast, you can choose from many different aspirations. They all feel like tutorials, which is a shame because Horse Ranch made them feel like actual lifetime aspiration goals, but then they reverted back with this pack and turned them into glorified tutorials. The pack comes with some new traits as well. There's an Elder exclusive trait, which is the Wise trait, which is really good. There's a Child of the Village lifestyle trait. This is bad, I'm sorry. The Generous trait is just a repackaged version of the base game Good trait. The Nosy trait and the Cringe traits are actually really good, and they've been implemented very, very well. Cass is lovely. It lacks a male and female balance, but across the board, I would say it's relatively generous and it gives us something new. It's getting an 8 out of 10. Taking a look at build mode now, there is a very big emphasis on architectural stuff. The furniture looks really nice too. Obviously, it's really niche to the world, so not everything will suit every world, but I think you'll be able to create some really nice spaces with the pack. Over the past few years, I feel like build mode was getting a little bit samey and they weren't really giving us anything new, but with For Rent, I actually feel like we genuinely got some nice new looking unique stuff. It's also the only pack outside of Perfect Patio stuff to have a hot tub, which is good. The only major issue I have is that there's just not enough functional stuff. From the outside looking in, it feels like there's a lot of stuff, but it's only when you go to build a house that it's really, really difficult to make a whole build with this pack. For example, there's only a double bed, there's no single bed, there's no bunk bed. There's also a lack of furniture, like no desks, no bookcases, no storage units, no floor lamps. There's not even a tall refrigerator or an oven, and the sink that comes with the pack doesn't match the kitchen set. The new dishwasher also clips through the kitchen counter in a way that looks very unnatural. I feel like they focus way too much on architectural stuff like windows with the neglect of household furniture. The stuff that's there is really nice, and you can definitely make a build using this pack, but you'll need to also have the base game plus other packs in my opinion. So as a disclaimer, I think the build mode stuff here is really, really nice. There just isn't enough furniture to make a full coherent build. This is one of the first recent Sims 4 expansion packs where even I felt like a little bit disappointed, and it's such a shame because the stuff is so nice. It's just, to be constructive to E8, we needed more furniture for more rooms around the house. For example, as I said, an office space, bookshelves, floor lamps, new paintings, a full kitchen set, storage units, some more outdoor furniture. I'm really surprised to have to give this a lower score than usual because I think it's nice. I just don't think it was curated very well. It gets a 6 out of 10 for build mode. Taking a look at the world, there are 2 neighborhoods with 9 lots, 3 of them are empty, so if you don't like building, you actually only get 6 lots. Now, of the residential rentals that come in the pack, there are only 2 units that you can choose from to live in. For a whole expansion pack, when you first load into the game, you can only live in one of 2 different units. A whole expansion pack only comes with 2 apartment units to live in. What the hell? There are also barely any pre-made, pre-existing households. The 2 units that you can live in are a little bit bland, and the pack comes with a pool party event, which is a big new event in the pack, but there are no swimming pools in these units, so you can't even use the feature unless you want to have to build your own. This is such a missed opportunity, especially with the 3 empty lots, and the lots are so small as well. The world is awful in terms of lots, and it's awful in terms of a lack of units, despite that being the major gameplay feature of the pack. There's a lounge. I mean, there's so many lounges in the game already, guys. You could say I'm lounged out, you might say. There's also a so-called botanical garden where your Sims can perform extremely exciting interactions, such as sitting on the bench. If The Sims 4 was just a normal game, there would would have been normal gameplay interactions like being able to smell the flowers. But of course, this is just The Sims 4 where you have to play pretend and pretend something is happening without actually it happening. There's a night market with a market stall and some food stands. There's a fish market too. Most of the stalls are not actually interactable and there's barely any other townies there, so it feels a little bit dead. It doesn't feel like a bustling night market. There's just one shop where you can buy tassels and marbles from, which are the new collectibles, and you can buy fish from if you can't be bothered to fish yourself. It feels like an empty, dead set piece, and it doesn't really feel that fun to play with, to be honest. There's a temple rabbit hole where your Sims can visit and come out with a temporary moodlet after a few minutes. This did not have any meaningful gameplay impact. There's also a rabbit hole tiger sanctuary. You can sneak in at night or just go in normally in the day. Of course, it's not actually a tiger sanctuary. It's another rabbit hole with a series of text boxes where you can imagine they're in the sanctuary, but they're not. There's also a hidden cave, but there's nothing to do inside of the cave other than maybe find a tassel, one of the new collectibles. But again, it's just text boxes. In my personal opinion, rabbit holes are good if they are added in addition to gameplay, but not replace meaningful gameplay in a world. But I feel like in Tomarang, they replaced meaningful gameplay. The world feels really tiny to play in. There's so much empty space and not really much to do. If The Sims 4 was a screenshot simulator, then it would be a perfect world to take pictures. But if you want to play the game, you don't really get any gameplay out of this tiny limited world. Tomarang makes a wonderful paperweight, although unfortunately I'm not reviewing a paperweight. I'm reviewing a pricey expansion pack to one of the world's most successful games published by a billion-dollar company, and I felt underwhelmed. This is one of the worst worlds I've seen since Magnolia Promenade. It's getting a 1 out of 10. In terms of gameplay, now creating a residential rental is actually quite seamless and easy. It's really satisfying to just click on different rooms and turn them into units. The only issue is that you cannot set an outside area as a unit because technically it doesn't count as a room. If you want to create townhouses with their own separate backyards, you can't actually do this because obviously if you delete the flooring, it stops becoming a room. Therefore, you can't select it as a room, so it ends up being the shared space. In terms of the shared spaces themselves, I actually tested making like a test slot where I only put beds in the individual units and all of the other facilities were in the outside. Sims did generally use the areas outside, including using cross-pack things. They didn't use everything. I have a feeling that Sims are coded to only use certain objects, not all objects. So it's kind of like trial and error in order to understand which objects your neighbors can interact with. But in general, they do hang out around the shared spaces and you can speak with your neighbors, but you won't be able to make functional retirement homes or anything like that. In terms of playing as a landlord, you can buy any kind of residential rental, or you can buy any regular residential and convert it into a residential rental. Just to confirm, you cannot own a normal residential rental, haunted house, waterfront lot, city living apartment, tiny home. These cannot be residential rentals. You cannot rent them out. As a landlord, you can only own the brand new lot type, which means you have to convert other buildings into the new lot type in order to rent them out. It's very flexible and customizable, being able to set different tenant rules and pricing, and there's a landlord rating system, and this dictates how much you can price these rentals for. As a landlord, there are certain challenges and events. For example, tenants might have leaky pipes, they might have a bug infestation, and it's your job to sort these things out. You only get notified these, by the way, by a notification in the top right corner, and these are really easily missable, and it's really difficult to know actually which apartment has an issue, so you have to scroll through the list. To be constructive to EA, in order to make it really clear that there's a tenant landlord event happening where you need to repair something, there should be like a red outline in the own businesses tab, or some kind of, like red triangle warning sign showing that you need to do something, because it's not that clear. Apparently there are several different kinds of unique landlord events, but I only really experienced the same two over and over again with no variety. These events also rarely ever happen despite me owning 15 different units in total. For me, I feel like being a landlord should feel like a full-time career, but in this pack it didn't feel like a full-time career. The events weren't frequent enough to make it feel like engaging fun gameplay, and the unit ratings themselves also go up very easily over time without you doing anything. Gradually over time, all of my rental units that I owned were going up to being 5-star rentals, even though I did nothing. I literally did nothing to improve the lots. Sometimes I didn't even bother fixing the problems that my tenants had, and the unit rentals just went up, gradually up to 5 stars. And this was really unsatisfying as a player. as I didn't have to make any kind of meaningful or deliberate gameplay decisions in order to increase the ratings. To be constructive to the Sims team, I think they should have added a review system like with restaurants, shops, vets, where tenants give you a bad review depending on what you did wrong, and you have to take meaningful gameplay steps in order to change your tenants' minds so they give you a better review, instead of them just naturally going up over the time without you even doing anything. You may sometimes face a tenant revolt where they demand better living conditions and hold up protest signs. This is a fun idea on paper, but all I had to do was click on a sim and select the option to reassure them that as a landlord I would make things better, and then they stopped protesting, and then it was all over in about 10 in-game minutes. There was no challenge really. It was a little bit of a meaningless feature. So big problem, I didn't get paid as a landlord. I played for a whole in-game year and I got paid only once. There was also an issue where I couldn't actually rent out certain rentals for more than 2 simoleons. Even though there was like a full house on the build that was fully furnished, it feels like the game kind of like recognized it as a bulldozed empty lot and there was nothing there. It was so strange. I don't think this was a bug. I think it was just a bad implementation of shared spaces, because if you just want to rent out like a singular home and you don't want to make it a full-on apartment complex, the game doesn't recognize it as a singular home. It recognizes it as like a bulldoze lot, so you can only charge 2 simoleons. It was so annoying. It was very unintuitive and confusing, and it took me ages to learn how to fix it. In general, being a landlord is okay when it's not a little bit buggy. It's not really that challenging or rewarding in its current state and just feels like a random way to make passive income rather than a major pack feature, despite the fact that it was kind of advertised as a major pack feature. And the fact that being paid as a landlord is fundamentally broken is shocking. Why didn't the Sims team actually test this properly before it came out? I am being a Karen and I am disgraced. Yes, I am. If you don't test your games properly before release, like what the hell are you doing? Especially when it's a major pack feature. This is so unacceptable and unethical of you. Also, I think to make the pack feel a little bit more satisfying, they should have included the ability to own commercial lots like you could in The Sims 3. In The Sims 3, it was just a very minor feature, and I feel like they could have added it as a minor feature in addition to this pack as well. In terms of being a tenant, it's not that different to being a tenant in apartments in City Living or Eco Lifestyle, but there's something called unit events. So these are events that just add a little bit of challenge or a new way to play in units. For example, there was a haunted unit event in my unit. A ghost sim turned up on my lot. I select the interaction to confront the ghost, and then the ghost sim immediately left my house. The whole thing was over in about 5 seconds, so that specific one wasn't that meaningful. There was a cross-pack one because I have cats and dogs, which was called a pet adoption drive. This was, is this an American thing? I didn't know what this was before I played this. So my neighbor had like stray animals come into their house, and all of the different neighbors could come in and they could pet the animals and potentially adopt them. This was nice. I think the concept of tenant events are a really nice addition to make living in a unit feel more alive and to get your sim out the house more. However, as with landlord events, I just got the same 2 events happening over and over again with no variety, so I can't even show you guys all the other events because they just didn't happen. And this was over an entire in-game year living across multiple different units. I feel like it should have been hard-coded into the game that you got a new event each time to make it more interesting and not just the same ones. This was really disappointing, and it makes me feel like it's a very good idea on paper. It just wasn't implemented very well to make it satisfying as a player. Sure, there may be a list of 20 different kind of events that happen, but if I as a player only receive 2 of them, then there's no point. Now, there's a feature of breaking and entering into another Sim's house. The first time I did this, the other Sim was at home. She literally saw me breaking her door down and didn't even care. We even had a nice little chat in the living room, just ignoring the fact that I broke her door down. There's a Snoop interaction tied to certain objects like wardrobes where you can find out secrets. Now, the secrets are randomly generated and they're not meaningful. For example, I found out that my neighbor had a secret that she hated living in Willow Creek, even though she lives in Tomarang. So like, you snoop on the neighbor's house, even though the neighbor's at home and they can literally see you snooping and they don't even care. And then the secret that you find out is randomly generated and doesn't have any meaningful gameplay consequences other than, you know, bribing them 100 simoleons in order to keep the secret. I want real lore. I don't want to snoop on a sim and pretend that I found out a meaningful secret when I didn't actually find out anything. It's just very patronizing that the Sims team want me as a player to play pretend and imagine I'm doing something when I'm not. To be constructive to EA, they could have done a live criminal career, a live spy career where you could steal steal things from people's homes or even, I don't know, break into a community lot. But more specifically, I would have liked secrets directly related to the townies. I'm not talking about pre-made secrets for each individual pre-made townie. I'm thinking, for example, if you break into a household where there are two married Sims, maybe you could find out a secret that one Sim cheated on the other, and if you tell their partner, it causes them to break up. Maybe if you snoop into a household where there's a child Sim, the child might have a secret that they've been skipping class, and if you tell that secret to the parent will form a negative bond with their child. Like, there could have been specific secrets integrated in a meaningful way, even for randomly generated townies, and they could have had meaningful gameplay consequences, but they didn't. This was such a dumb feature. Like, the Sim is literally at home while I'm breaking into their property. This even happened in the official Sims live stream of this pack. And like, these secrets, like, they're not secrets, they're so dumb. Like, my Sim found out a secret that their neighbor loved playing hopscotch. That was the secret. Another one was a Sim once saw a stray dog in the street, and that was supposedly their deep dark secret. These are hardly deep secrets. They're randomly generated, which means they have no gameplay impact, they have no depth. There is no reason to use this feature. And why can't other Sims break into my house? Where's the iconic Sims burglar? I don't know how this feature made it past quality control. Was there even quality control? I doubt it. This was, in my opinion, the dumbest feature of the pack. The game comes with a new mold lot challenge where mold grows on your lot, and if you let it grow too much, it can kill your Sim. For whatever reason, mold would just not grow in my Sims unit, and I tried this on 3 different properties and it didn't work. I've seen other Sims creators try the new mold thing, and even they got it to work, but it was really, really tough to actually get mold to grow and to have your Sims die. I feel like if you intentionally give yourself a mold lot challenge, it's because like you want mold to grow, so why didn't the mold grow? It just felt way too safe, and the game just like refuses to just let any kind of negative consequences happen to you. So unfortunately, I can't show you anything. There's no new woohoo location or woohoo type, and I feel like every Sims 4 expansion pack should, so I was disappointed. There are 2 new events, a potluck and a pool party. I think the potluck is a little bit boring. Sims just come around with food and you eat food together. The pool party I actually think is good. I think it was a really necessary addition into the game, and I'm glad that they put it in. Although, as we know, Sims 4 Sims are very, very bad. Like, the AI is bad when they're in these social events. You know, Sims just kind of walk around like they've just been lobotomized, not really knowing what to do. So the pool event wasn't bad, it was just held back by Sims 4 dumb AI. In terms of miscellaneous features, hopscotch and marbles exist. Any Sim can do hopscotch, only kids can do marbles. The Sims 4 barely has any children's gameplay, so I'm glad that they finally remembered kids exist, even though these features probably should have just been included in Growing Together. There's a part-time handyman career, which is a rabbit hole career with some work from home assignments. There's new cooking equipment like a kettle, a slow cooker, and a drinks tray. To be honest, I didn't really care much for these, but they exist if you want to cook some new recipes. There's a spirit house to place fruit and incense. I don't understand really what it's about as a cultural object, but I think it's nice to have the inclusion. Now, the loading screens. If you have a fetish for loading screens, be prepared to cream yourselves over and over again. Never have I ever spent so much time in loading screens in all my life. Even I didn't take this many loads when I was in my bottom era. It is pretty severe, and I know you're going to say, Satch, loading screens are fundamental to make sure the Sims 4 performs well. It's because of the way the Sims 4 base game is code, blah, blah, blah. Shut up. No. I'm not having it. EA made the decision to release the Sims 4 with such bad performance issues that they've had to put loading screens into every individual lot. EA made their bed, and now they have to lie in that bed as long as they continue releasing packs on this very, very poor platform. If there are pack issues resulting from the poor issues of the base game 9 years on, they've had plenty of time to make a sequel, but they chose not to. They continue releasing packs for this bad base game, so when there's really bad issues like a million loading screens happening with full rent, I will very negatively criticize that, because there are way too many loading screens between every unit event. It was just too much. For $34.99, I expect any expansion pack for any video game to suck my dick, and For Rent did not do that slightly. On paper, it should have been great. Many of the new landlord challenges and gameplay concepts bring bring back some old Sims chaos. The new unit events should make the game feel more alive. It's something I really like about the pack, and the idea of being a landlord and the careers gameplay is a fun idea on paper, but the pack just didn't give, and it felt really limited and implemented badly. I mean, you don't even get paid as a landlord, for Christ's sakes, even though you're supposed to. To be constructive, I think EA should have released a landlord and tenant system as a game pack with no world. The truth is, Tomarang is a paperweight world. I feel like we just got it to justify bloating out the pack as an expansion, but the gameplay doesn't feel there, and the gameplay that is there was implemented badly, a little bit buggy, and had absolutely no challenge to the landlord system, making it feel really unsatisfying. Now I have this pack in my game, I will probably create my own residential rentals for YouTube videos, and I may play the game whilst living in them because I do think the idea of having a tenant event is fun. But the pack requires way too much imagination and pretending something is happening when it's not happening, and the features are just so oversimplistic and easy, and they hold your hand the whole way with no real gameplay challenge. There's no real intentional moves that you have to make as a player, and it just doesn't feel rewarding. I cannot ethically tell you that this pack is worth the money based on what I've seen. The gameplay for For Rent is implemented in a very shocking way. It's getting a 3 out of 10. In terms of performance, since installing For Rent, build mode is some reason like really laggy when placing wallpaper. Like it totally lags out placing wallpapers. The neighbors in my residential rental entered my private space. What they should do is be limited to their own private unit and only go in the shared spaces, but they actually went into my private rental a lot of the time, which was really annoying and immersion breaking. As I said before, my sim only got paid once as a landlord and no other time, so consider it a broken feature. In the first landlord event I had where I had to fix a water leak, I went on the lot, but there wasn't actually any water leaks, so I couldn't actually resolve the issue. During the first bug infestation event I did, my sim was supposed to wear a hazmat star outfit, but they didn't. Instead, they put it on after the event had completed, not during. As I mentioned before, some units like the rent was just max like 2 simoleons. This wasn't a bug, it was just a weird way the pack was implemented, and it made it really confusing to know how to actually set a lot as a residential rental. So it's not a bug, but it's still bad performance because it was implemented badly. As a tenant, sometimes I received a notification that my landlord was going to come in and like check up on my property, but they didn't actually come in. While my rental was being haunted by a ghost, there was an option to exorcise a ghost in the goals panel, but there wasn't actually the interaction to do so. When I completed the pet adoption drive event at my neighbor's residential rental unit, I went back to my own home unit and it said that the event was incomplete even though I completed it. There seems to be a bug where your Sims have to pay really high rental taxes if you live in a residential rental. I had to pay almost 5,000 simoleons for like a week's rent, labeled as other taxes, which was pretty insane. I also mentioned in the gameplay section that if you try and break into a property, sometimes the sim who lives in that property will be there and ignore you breaking in. Every single gameplay aspect I tried to play with was bugged out in some way. Bugs and glitches should be a rarity, not a very common occurrence, and I was really shocked at how poor the quality of this pack was. If EA want constructive criticism, my criticism is hire people who actually know how to test out packs properly, and you need to have a more systematic and well-defined testing process. Perhaps a process that involves inviting real players of the game to test it out. The performance was horrendous. It gets a 1 out of 10. In terms of cross-pack play, there's a no pets unit rule if you own cats and dogs. Tenants that are randomly generated can sometimes own pets, and there are cross-pack unit events, it seems, such as the pets one that I experienced. The new radiators and air conditioners have weather and temperature functionality if you own seasons. Neighbors seem to be able to use certain cross-pack objects such as laundry machines and yoga mats in shared spaces, but they can't use other cross-pack things, so it seems a little bit hit or miss, unfortunately. If you own the seasons pack, it rains way too much in Tomarang, but you can decorate an entire residential unit with the decorations box, which is good. However, a major downfall for me is that you cannot convert tiny homes, haunted houses, city living apartments, or waterfront lots as residential rentals, or not just splitting them up into, you know, like separate units on a lot, but you can't even rent them out as a landlord. You should have been able to rent out just like a single occupancy tiny home lot, for example, but you couldn't. And this is a major flaw with this pack. It was not implemented in the best way. I feel like they did make some effort with cross-pack play, but not in a way that's meaningful based on the landlord gameplay itself. So it gets a 6 out of 10 for cross-pack pack play. My overall score of The Sims 4 for rent is a 4 out of 10. I know I get so many trolls calling me a Sims 4 hater. I genuinely don't go into any pack wanting to hate on it. The Sims, honestly, the Sims community is so dumb and toxic. I swear to God. I said on Twitter the other day that I thought For Rent felt like a game pack, and in response, they literally called me a racist. They are literally dumb, woke drongos. Yes, they are. If the Sims team are watching this, I do not go into any of your packs wanting to give it a low score. There have been plenty of occasions where I've given expansion packs high scores, such as City Living or Cottage Living. I thought these were good packs, so I gave them a good score. If you give me a bad pack, I will give it a bad score. If you give me a good pack, I will give it a good score. The Sims 4 for rent felt like a 4 out of 10, so I scored it a 4 out of 10. By all means, call me a toxic Sims 4 annoying hater. You can either stay in your affirmation bubble where you only want to be pandered and told positive things, or you can listen to bitches like me who actually give you constructive criticism to improve your games. In its current state, based on the really bad performance and shallow gameplay, it's not ethical for me to say I recommend purchasing this pack. I really didn't want to give this pack a bad review. I honestly, because I love Korea's gameplay, I really thought being a landlord would be a really fun career, but it's just the way it was implemented just didn't feel meaningful or fun. It felt like a very cheap experience. Such a Sims hates The Sims 4. He's a Sims 4 evil hater. No, I'm not. I just love The Sims so much that I expect it to be very good. Because it's made by $1 billion company, they should know better. And I provide constructive criticism hoping that it will be better so I can enjoy it more. If you enjoyed this review, you might also enjoy one of these reviews here. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one.